She hands me this piece of paper, and it was the bank repossessing our house. And that was the day that we became homeless. Who am I now? I'm this person that is like self-educated. I'm the dropout from high school. The reason why I work so hard is because I never want my family to ever go through that again. I was already in control of my destiny. I was like, I just got to double down and I got to work. And so I just put my head down and I work. If you really want to be successful, you've got to be prepared to sleep on a couch. Never treat yourself. So I live by this philosophy. So I just basically sold my business. I celebrated with a cup of black English breakfast tea. Business is a full contact sport. It's a war zone. Easiest way to differentiate you to your competitor if you're better quality is how? Fucking price. I've got to give you a bonus point. You have to read. If someone wants a one thing lesson, it's that the biggest opportunity for disruption in the accounting industry is.
Just quickly before we get started, guys, if you've been enjoying the podcast, can I please ask that you consider leaving a 5-star review and subscribing on whatever platform you've been listening. It really helps the podcast grow. All right, we're back. We were just talking before we started about the what's that word I'm trying to say? Intricacies of running a podcast, and they record limits on Canon. So we got that underway. We're all good. We've got my good friend, someone I consider a friend and a mentor, Kobi Simmat. We've known each other for a few years now, but we were just talking. We haven't caught up for a while, so I'm so interested to pick your brain about so many different things. I got a bunch of questions for you. You're a very wise and experienced man, still young though, still kicking it. So we're not going to go there. But Kobi, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're extremely busy. Tell people who you are and what you do. I know you've built this amazing business over the last decade plus with Best Practice, and there's been some exciting updates there. So Before we start, let people know who you are, what you do. He's also the host of the Talking Business with Kobi Simmat podcast that I was on maybe a year ago or so, a little bit over. So puts out that much content, so you can check him all out. But for people who have no idea about you, Kobi, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're about, and your business.
Yeah, look, it goes back to 1994, and I was in the kitchen with my mum, and I'll make a really long story really short. We're in this battle axe driveway, down the back of this long driveway. These people come walking down the driveway in suits. Yeah. And like there's a dude in kind of a uniform, looks like a police officer, and these people in suits. And mum and dad had this beautiful home. It was a waterfront, wharf out the front, boat on a mooring out the front, beautiful view of the river, absolutely fantastic. And we're kind of looking out, it's 4:00 in the afternoon, we're looking out, and these guys come down our driveway. Anyway, you hear this thump, thump, thump on the front door, and, the dog starts barking, and I bolt down the stairs because I was like, something's not right. Something wrong with dad, or I don't know what's happening. It's kind of like, what's going on? And your gut starts to churn and turn into this incredible knot. Anyway, I bolt down the stairs and run, if you don't know what bolting is. Anyway, I thought I'd try to race my mum to the front door. I was 18 years old. And anyway, my mum's downstairs. She's beat me to the front door. Anyway, she's opened the front door. And there's this guy in this blue uniform, and I kind of spot the badge. He's a sheriff. And then there's this dude in this kind of nylon suit that's sticking to his legs because he's got static electricity. And my mum's in tears. And I'm like, what's up, Mum? What's up? And she's like, she hands me this piece of paper, and it was the bank repossessing our house. And that was the day that we became homeless. And then we basically just, scraped and we didn't go bankrupt, but we lost our house. Our family lost everything, and we were homeless. And that was 1994. And so we had to kind of figure out what was going on and kind of investigate the situation. The reality was interest rates were screaming. My dad's business went pear-shaped. The construction industry collapsed. And my dad was one of the most incredible architects. He was an incredible builder, incredible at doing developments. But there was kind of this perfect storm. And I learned this lesson that, I started to make inquiries, and then I learned a lesson, which is there has to be a better way to do business. There has to be kind of best practices that you can follow. There's heaps of super successful people that this never happens to. So it wasn't like, why did this happen to us? I was like, why did this happen to us? And so I went on this quest, and I've been on kind of this lifetime quest. I'm now 47 years old. That's 30, that's coming up for, 20 years ago. It's actually long. It must be 30 years ago. 27 years ago. There you go. So because I'm coming up for 50. So a couple of years time. And so I kind of went on this quest, and all threaded through everything that I've done since that point in time was this: how can we be better at what we're doing? How can we be better at business, relationships, people, all that kind of stuff? And that's been my quest. So I've become this, through those challenges, I've become this person that's like always learning. always looking to those successful people, because like, how are these people doing it? What lessons have they learned? What mistakes have they made? If people make mistakes and you speak to any successful person, they'll tell you about the lowest lows and the highest highs, and they'll tell you about the lessons. And so I live by this philosophy of like, if I want to be successful, I've got to stand on the shoulders of giants. That's how we met, right? We met through the Gary Vaynerchuk program. And so I was like, right, how do we do this? How do I grow my business? And so, who am I now? I'm this person that is like self-educated. I'm the dropout from high school because that was right at the wrong time in my life, losing the house, being homeless, 4 days to move every single family possession out of our house. I got a brother who's tiny, sister who's starting high school. I'm kind of in the process of finishing high school. And so my dad's business didn't go well, but he was incredibly talented. So how do we wrap an incredibly talented person in a really successful business? Well, I wouldn't say I'm very talented, but what I am is very successful at business because I've looked at those winning formulas and I've learnt those lessons. And so what I can kind of crystallize now is that you can look at the different pillars of business, and I'm super passionate about helping businesses to be great places to work, and it's all about people, great places to buy from, that then become great places to invest in. And so I can show you that journey, and I can show anyone that journey, that business is really quite a simple formula. Yeah. And I think people kind of overcook it. And we look, I'm guilty of buying hundreds of books, as everybody knows I'm famous for, is like reading a book a day. Yeah. But I'm that person now that can kind of look at it and say, okay, well, I can analyze it and I can say what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I obviously have built something that worked, and someone's bought it from me, and that's really exciting. The next stage of the journey for the business I built, through the transaction that we'll talk about. So I'm that person that's like, I'm super excited and passionate about turning any organization into a great place to work. Any organization can then be a great place to buy from, so the customers have an incredible experience. If you put those two things together, the third stakeholder is the owner or the investor or the shareholder or whatever, we can make it a great investment.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense, you articulating how you have, like, from the outside looking in, knowing you, Kobi, what you like. When we have these conversations, usually it's like, it's really about the journey, and like there'll be lessons throughout that. But me knowing you, there's going to be lessons throughout your journey, but I really know you as someone who just knows a lot of stuff about business, about mindset, about life. Yep. You've really, and I kind of intuitively thought that, but hearing you now more speak about what you went through, you really have made a whole career in business out of personal and professional development. And that's something that I'm so interested in. I always feel like as well, why those are so related. You probably can, and I'm sure there are people out there that have, but you can't really build a successful business if you don't start with yourself 100%. And the principles and how your habits and your routines, and it all starts with the foundation of you. And we'll get there. And I see now from that experience how you've become the man you've become. But from that, what I'm interested in, apart from igniting that in curiosity about how to improve businesses and like scalable but profitable and process-driven businesses, I want to know, as someone who grew up, you had until that you're about 20, quite a bit of money. At least you lived like a pretty easy, well-off life. Mm-hmm. To then, in the matter of a click of a fingers, essentially, all that's thrown out the door and you have to start again being homeless. How else did that impact you and your character, and what was going through your head at that point of your life?
Oh, look, right at the time that you're kind of 17, 18, 19, I'm chasing girls everywhere, right? So all of a sudden, we've got a waterfront house. I didn't really get my driver's license until I was 18 because I had a ski boat, and so, I had the ski boat tied out the front. We go water skiing every day. I had a great life, and I think that I think about that time, every single day. Like it drives me every single day. And I've even said to my wife is like, the reason why I work so hard is because I never want my family to ever go through that again. And it's not just my immediate family, like my wife and son and the dog. It's also my brother and sister and mum and dad and their kids. Like, what I've just done is a life-changing transaction for our family. That means I can look after all of them, and it doesn't have to happen again. And everyone's kind of figuring stuff out in our family and kind of, building wealth and that kind of stuff. But it means that I can, I was the oldest. My dad was off, trying to grow and build a business that ultimately, fell in a heap. The business kept going, in a much smaller form. But, it did affect me, and it affected, it affected my dad. My dad kind of stopped talking for 2 years, and my mum had been drinking a bunch in the lead up to that, and it wasn't so much that we made lighthearted humor of it. Mum's an alcoholic because dad's an alcoholic, but they were clearly under significant stress before that moment. And I think that, there's a massive dent to your ego because you're working your way up Maslow's hierarchy of needs to self-actualization. You're doing cool stuff for the community, and then all of a sudden the base gets ripped out, right? You got to come back down. You got to go find yourself a house. You got to find the money to eat, and then you got to find the money to find a house. So I think that, at that time, I kind of finished high school. I went into college, and I couldn't figure out high school. Like I just, people talk about, colleges, not great. And, and I've got a view about universities and colleges that's quite well known that I think they're important. But from a high school perspective, I couldn't figure out the game. And so I fully failed everything, but I dragged myself through the process. I got myself into TAFE, and at TAFE I learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I was like, it all makes sense now. And then off we go, So my educational journey really started when I finished school, into a couple of years of college and then a couple of years of university, 3 years of university. And that's where my learning journey started. So I think learning about, going into college was one of the best things I ever did, because kind of in the lead up to losing the house and being homeless, I was self-funded. So because there wasn't money, I was like, Mum and Dad are like, well, if you want stuff, go earn some money. And so from 15, I've been self-funded, not really knowing. So I had the ski boat and I had a roof over my head, but I didn't have cash. Like Mum and Dad weren't going like, here's money. I was like, you want to take the car? You got to fill it up with fuel. I was like, Mum, it's empty. It's like, fill it up, and leave it full when you get back. So it was kind of like there was kind of an appearance, if you like, but Mum and Dad in the background, they were struggling, and they'd been struggling for kind of 3 or 4 years. And they're like, Dad would come home, we just sold the holiday house. And then he'd come home, he's like, we just sold the investment property. We just sold the warehouse we own. We just sold this, we just sold the car. And I just didn't think anything of that. Yeah. And so, but in that moment, it was probably a massive dent to my ego, massive reality check. And I think that the thing that I fell back on was I fell back on work. And I was able to work, and I was able to this is okay. Like, I can go earn some money on the weekends, and I can feed myself through the week at school or lunches and whatever. So I think that I am a very optimistic person, and I could be kind of completely wrecked as a person. Yeah. But I was like, whatever, get on with it. So I was already in control of my destiny. I was like, I just got to double down and I got to work. Yeah. And so I just put my head down and I work. I think that the area that I did get significantly damaged was in relationships, because I had a heap of girlfriends that were really shallow, and all of a sudden that dried up. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck have I done wrong? What's wrong with me? And it was nothing wrong with me. It was everything wrong with the fact that I didn't have the house and all the shit that comes with it. Yeah. And the fast cars and all that kind of stuff that my dad had at the time.
Do you think it was like a pre-lesson in humility to learn it before you kind of
possibly
these bad behaviors yourself? Because I see particularly all these e-com guys who, it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy, but there's a lot of e-com guys that have made stupid cash in the first 6 to 12 months, and they're flashing their watches, their Gucci shirts, and then they start getting real quiet after about a year in business, and it's because you're not making the profit as easily as you used to be, and their entire ego crumbles. And like I've seen people completely disappear off the face of social media because now that they're not making all this profit, their ego, like their whole being shrivels up. But I think kind of like it could have been an important lesson for you to avoid going down that path. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I had friends a lot more poor than me, but I feel like having that taste of like that lower middle class life, and then now in my early 20s getting a bit of money, I'm very like grateful and appreciative of my personal journey there. But I'd just like to know, what your thoughts. Were you going down that path? Were you? Did you have ego around that? Everyone's, I suppose, a healthy bit of ego around that age, but
I think that my dad certainly came from a lot of money. None of it was handed down. Like it was certainly all gone by the time, my dad inherited a 1-bedroom apartment. And so he built up his own thing. So I think, if I come to kind of a slogan of our family is my mum, like we identify as workers. So I think that while I was certainly mixing in like filthy rich circles, to kind of talk about, how we look at it. And I have met and know some amazing people that are very, significant in their means. I think that probably, yes, I had lessons in humility, but I also had, some of the most wealthy people I know are some of the most humble people.
Oh,
and I had that example to follow as opposed to the kind of piece in the middle, if that makes sense, which is the keeping up with the Joneses. And I grew up in an area where it wasn't pretentious. Like no one gave a fuck what car you drove, even though they were some of the fastest cars on the road. No one cared, right? You drove it because that's what you want, not because you want to show someone. And at a time when, the dude that was probably worth the most wore a flannelette shirt round on the weekends and a pair of ripped jeans, and you wouldn't know. And so I think I organically just through osmosis absorbed that. So you're probably right about that lesson. I think that, I say I had a ski boat, like a water ski boat out the front. I restored it, from scratch. And my dad was like, if that's what you want, you can have this and you've got to do it up. And so, I fiberglassed it and painted it and rebuilt the engine and did all that kind of stuff. So it was a cool lifestyle, but there was a lot of work behind it.
That's the important part though. Like, and that's the thing. If my path continues and I end up being extremely wealthy and I have kids, like I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm not going to leave a dollar to my kids. They got to build all this stuff." Like, I disagree with that. I trust myself. I'm not a parent yet, but I trust myself and my ability to parent a kid over the 20, 30 years that he's growing up. That you got to teach them the value of money. Like, just because I made my money myself, I'd like to be able, like you said, to share that with your family and around you. But it's as long as I understand the lessons and the humility and the, how hard it can be to earn money and how lucky you are to have it and the work that's required, then I'm comfortable with that. I want to go back as well to that period where you started losing everything as a family. Where did you go next? What did that rebuild look like for you? You started working a lot. Tell us a little bit about that, and then what did the family business start to rebuild?
So the rebuild looks like knowing the lows of the lows is an incredible experience because you know what you can go back to and you know how you can survive. So I think that a really close family, like we've got a really close family unit, and I think that we were able to navigate where people could get completely frustrated with each other and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like double down. We're all going to work as a team and work together. So I think that, the rebuild looks like move in with the mechanics and the practicality of it. Move in with the neighbours. So we had some really good family friends put us up for 3 months. Dad's kind of solving this financial problem with what do we do because. The bank's also saying, well, we're going to put your house on the market and sell it. It took them 12 months to sell the house. So it wasn't like the debt and everything was like done on that day. It was like, no. There was still this kind of, do we owe the bank money still or not? They've taken the house. Do we pay the mortgage? Yes or no? Dad was trying to buy the house back and refinance it. And then he was kind of like, all right, I can't do that. There's a bit of corruption and there's more depth to a different story for another day as to the side shit that was happening. That we weren't aware of, like we were being handicapped as part of that process. But the rebuild looks like moving with the neighbours, and you've always got friends and family. There's always a couch you can sleep on. And I think a lot of people are really scared and kind of paralysed in the moment of risk where they go, well, what will I do? I'll lose my house, my apartment, my freedom, my 2-bedroom apartment that's amazing. I'll lose that. It's like if you really want to be successful, you got to be prepared to sleep on a couch.
Yeah.
And so, we did that. And then we rented a house for a year. And then mum and dad found a house that was a lot more humble and we're able to buy that. And the mortgage was in their means. My dad scaled back the business and we rebuilt. And I think that, we've gone on to do other things. I went in, 5 years later, I went into the family business for a little while, which was developments. And then, and then my dad kind of kicked along and then we kind of went off in different directions. And I think that the one thing that I think if someone wants a one thing lesson, it's that income from outside sources is always better than recycling it inside. So as a team, put your backs together, all back to back, look outwardly and bring income in from external, not relying on one source. Because it's very easy with a family business to go, all right, put everybody on the payroll. Everyone kind of sits at the desks in the office and you got the one source of income from a customer. I think the thing that got us through was I was earning my own income. My sister got a job. My dad was bringing his income. My mum went and worked. My little brother kind of battled his way through high school. Yeah. So I think that if you're in a relationship, in a partnership, go outside for the income. Don't go like one breadwinner or whatever. Like try to get other sources. That diversifies risks. If you're in different industries, they're going to be in different macroeconomic cycles. And I think from that perspective, that's a good way to kind of do the rebuild. Once a significant source of income starts coming in, then off you go in that direction.
Yeah. Did you find that looking back, has that moment in a sense freed you to be able to take more risks in your business career, knowing that you've experienced the lows and there is a pathway out of that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've said to people, like, I'm happy in a camper trailer, or I'm happy camping. Yeah. So, my grandfather bought a block of land for my dad for £1 60 years ago. It's up in the Blue Mountains. It's got a fire pit, it's got a composting toilet, and I can pitch a tent. It owes us nothing. There's no debt. And I chase it all the way to the bottom because I know I can go and camp there. And I think having that thing put to bed and, I know that I can cook, and so I think that, and I think we do overinflate ourselves in terms of what we specifically need to eat, but you can get a slice of pizza for $1. So I think that, I can go down the road to the truck stop, I can get myself a meat pie and I can be in a tent. And now with the internet, I can rebuild from there. Yeah. So, I wouldn't want to put my family through that because they're used to the luxuries of life now. But yeah, 100%. Like if I go back 10 years to when I was really pushing the business hard, even like the last, 15 years to 10 years ago, I was really pushing it hard. I was actively saying to people, I am happy to live in a tent, and if you're not drawing money out of your business to kind of spend money on life, and I'll come back to your friends with the watches and the jewelry in a second because I got a different hypothesis on that, is that what you're doing is you're extracting your working capital out of your business. If you can leave your working capital in your business, you can scale faster. If you take that money out of your business, you're going to pay tax. Yeah. And if you're making decent money, you're going to be paying tax at the highest rate. And here in Australia, that's 47%. So you're going to be pulling money out. You're going to be giving half of it to the government. Not only that, you're going to be paying GST on the watch or the car. So you're actually paying more like 57% tax. Don't spend it. And so what I've seen with the people that disappear off social media is they have a lot of cash flow, but it's not profitable because the business hasn't grown yet and the business needs cash to grow. And so all of a sudden they're going, I've got this huge bank balance. That's the working capital to keep growing your business. But they're like, I'm going to buy a car and a watch and a holiday and a do whatever. Yeah. All of a sudden the tax bill comes in. That's what kills social media,
Yeah, and people as well in the first year of business, like, once you've had like several years of business, you've banked profit, you've got some money behind you, then you can start thinking, okay, how can I treat myself here? But too many people in the first year of business think, what can my business do for me? Not what can I do for my business? And that's the biggest mistake. People get so caught up in that lifestyle so quickly they don't realize what's actually required. That extra 30, 40 grand that you made in profit, there's going to come a day where you fucking need that or you're ruined. So that more long-term thinking is something that not a lot of people in this space, particularly my space, e-com, talk about. So I want to be someone who kind of changes that. Where I want to go now is you've obviously built an extremely successful business that you've just begun the process to move on to the next phase with. When did that start? I know you got into business, was it 26 or 28? Was that Best Practice?
27,
Did you have anything else before you launched Best Practice?
Yeah, so I tried to start a consulting company when I was 25. Like I kind of know what I'm talking about, one of those kids that's pretty switched on. And the advisory side of the business worked really well. In fact, it was in greenhouse gas emissions and carbon footprint modeling. Way too
Ahead
early.
Of your time, yeah.
Way too early. Anyway, we had a tax reform here in Australia where the GST came in 2000, and I couldn't really figure that out. And no one really knew how to do a BAS statement and your quarterly BAS or your monthly as your business gets a bit bigger. And so I kind of canned it, went and got a job, worked for a few years, and then kind of restarted when I was 27. So, in terms of kind of thinking about that, if I go back to high school when your year 7 teacher says, what do you want to do? I was like, I'm going to run a business. Like I grew up in a family with a father as an entrepreneur. I didn't have any role models in my family that got up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning and got dressed and got in the car and went to work and had a fixed income. Yeah. We lived a life of boom bust, which was entrepreneur has a heap of money, cool cars, then nothing, then an international holiday, then nothing, and then rice, and then mashed potato, or a $3 loaf of bread at grandma's on a Wednesday afternoon with a jar of peanut butter. Yeah. So I didn't have any other example to follow. My brother runs a business. My sisters managed to figure out the kind of corporate employment thing, but we didn't have that role model. So we were always destined to run businesses. Yeah. And that's our dinner table conversation in our family when we all get together. We talk about running businesses. We talk about real estate. We talk about developments. We talk about building stuff. We talk about development applications going through local councils. Yeah. That's what we do.
And that's the thing, because entrepreneurship over the last 5 years has been the cool thing to do. So many more people are being drawn to it when maybe it wasn't the best idea for them. And there's so much involved with it. There's this Robin Williams quote that I've mentioned before. It's about acting. Essentially, like, you shouldn't act unless you need to act, because it's so fucked. The chances of success is so low. If you're in it for the money, it's like you dream, and like it's almost getting to the point. I'd almost recommend that for business. Like, if you feel like you're too itchy, you can't sit in a corporate job and work there, like, don't start a business, because it's so draining. It's hard. You know what I mean? Like, I see both sides. Like, if you feel called to do it, great, but don't just because everyone else thinks the entrepreneurship's the cool thing now. Maybe in 5 years it's YouTubing again or gaming, but just do what's true to you. Business is an amazing platform and it can change your life, which we both know it can do. But if it's not for you, don't force it.
No, 100%.
That's the biggest
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely.
All right, so Best Practice, for anyone who doesn't know, multiple 8-figure business, extremely successful, built a team of how many staff? Like
70
staff. Fuck, that's crazy. There's so many things I want to ask you about that. But tell me about the build first, and then we'll go into some more granular questions about certain things I want to ask you. But what was the build like to go from just you starting your business by yourself to 70 staff, massive team, amazing culture, and obviously the revenue and the profit that you guys have done is extremely impressive. But talk to me about that build. Paint the picture. What was that like?
Yeah, look, I'll get into that. I want to circle back to one point, which is you kind of, you start making a bit of money and you treat yourself. Never treat yourself. So I live by this philosophy. So I just basically sold my business, and we'll talk about that. I celebrated with a cup of black English breakfast tea. And I'm moving on to the next thing. Like, I've got to help them do what they need. And so in terms of the build, because this comes into the build, I was like, I can't deal with the sky. I can't deal with the ceiling being the limit. I need the sky to be the limit. Yeah. And so in terms of me starting a business, I was like, I don't want politics or someone's agenda or turf they're trying to protect to prevent me from doing the right thing by a customer or the right thing by a teammate or the right thing by the owner of the business. I need to go in and solve that problem and fix that. And the money for me kind of comes separately. Like, I will, if anybody who's watching this wants help, DM me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I will help you for free. I will try, if you've got something on your mind or you want to get inside my head and ask me a question, that's how I work. If it turns into something commercial where you need lots of help, we'll work that out down the track. But that's how I live. So the build, I get a sheet of plywood from Bunnings. Yeah. I basically cut it into a triangle. I was like, that's not going to work. So I cut a curve in it. I get 2 chests of drawers and I push this piece of plywood into the corner of a second bedroom of a tiny little apartment. I get a canvas director's chair and my laptop, and that's how I started my business. Yeah. And so I got one, it was like 1 kilobyte a second, not 1 megabyte or 1 gigabyte a second, wow. 1 kilobyte a second, $16 a month, dial-up internet and a fax machine. And I started in 2004. And so the build was, right, we need a database. So I had an inkjet printer. I got purple paper because I thought purple was really cool. Ink from an inkjet doesn't print on purple. Anyway, I made these flyers. I got online and I kind of found a bit of a register. I got some addresses and I started just stuffing envelopes and mailing people. And that was the build. And I got my first client, Epson Australia. Wow. They're like, you're an idiot. You send us purple paper. No one ever sends purple paper. So we wanted to talk to you. And I go and help them do process reviews and looking for efficiencies. And 27 years old, they're like, you're a whippersnapper. I talked to, they weren't actually my first customer. I talked to my first customer last week and they were like, you were so wet behind the ears. It wasn't funny, but we thought, you're so smart. You're so switched on. And the changes you helped us make in our business to make us more efficient were incredible. Like, we were getting so much value out of you. We were too scared to tell you. Like, I told them $800 a day and I thought, I'm pretty, this is pretty cool. And they're like, we would have paid you 10 grand a day. You were that good. And they've been with me on that journey for like almost 20 years. Yeah. And so, I got one customer, then I got another customer. And I quickly realized that a better way or a good way to operate would be to have me go visit these people on a regular basis, like whether it's monthly or quarterly or 6 monthly. And so I built this kind of recurring service. Now we would call it business coaching, but back then it was just like, no, come and look at some stuff. Oh, we got some process challenges, or we got some risks, or we need some ideas, or how do we systemize this, or we need a training manual, or we need to induct people, or and there's compliance and regulations. Can you research that? I've got a really great mind for reading the law. and interpreting the law into really simple terms so that someone can say, oh yeah, I understand what that means. You know, now we're talking about things like modern slavery or health and safety compliance or chemicals or import regulations. I can read all that really quickly and kind of just, I don't know why, I'm kind of a bit of a freak, but I can find the law, I can read it, not a lawyer, but what I can do is I can turn that into a policy or procedure, and we can say, here's something that's meaningful for the team. And we just kind of built and built and built. And then we were like, actually, let's formalize this. Then, you know, I love networking. I love going and learning out from the environment. And that's how kind of we met. Yeah. I was at a networking group and someone kind of starts talking about subscription kind of recurring royalty revenue businesses. I was like, I think I can do that. So I go back and I go, right, everyone's going to be on subscription. We end up with 1,000 customers on subscription. Fuck. So, you know, and to kind of talk numbers, 35 full-time staff, 70, you know, another 35 to make it 70 really technical specialist people that are on ABNs. That's how they want to work. Yep. And I might use them 4 days, 5 days a week, or some guys might be 2 or 3 times a month. And it's a big crowd of people. And, you know, if you're in kind of the Southern Hemisphere or you're in specifically in Australia, you'll see best practice stickers, a red, a yellow, and a green sticker. That's one of our services that we're famous for. And we built best practice, and these people have, you know, getting assistance with quality assurance or OH&S or environment or cybersecurity. It's all risk management now is kind of the modern term. And so as you build a business and it becomes a medium-sized enterprise, it needs robust risk management because you have other people involved. You might have couple of $1 million worth of loans or tens of $1 million worth of loans, and you've got to keep the bank happy. And then you've got insurance risk, and you might have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of insurance premiums, and you need to demonstrate to the insurer it's not just that you pay the premium, that you're managing those risks to keep your premiums down and keep their risk down. And then you've got employment law, and you've got environmental law and safety law. So we take that kind of stuff and we bring that down. And people said, actually, you know what? I want you to come back and see me. And if there's any accountants watching, the biggest opportunity for disruption in the accounting industry is we want, as business owners, we want advice from our accountants. We want kind of a bit of guidance. There's no accountants out there doing that. Nah. And even though they say they are, they still say, oh, okay, I'll just do your tax return. Then maybe I'll give you some advice after that's done. And then they call you a year later and say, right, let's do your tax return. You're like, what happened to the advice? Yeah. So I think that advisory kind of service businesses, which is what I ended up specializing in. The build phase was like one person, help me do some marketing. Second person, help me do some advisory work. Third person, what was the third person? Was a kind of payroll finance person. I was on the payroll myself at, midnight on a Wednesday. And so we kind of, we built the business. And so I accidentally hired people who were really good at the things I didn't like doing. I didn't know that was the right way to go, but if you're starting to build and scale a business, hire someone who is super passionate about doing the shit that you hate. Yep. And that's how you scale a business. There's no science. It's very simple. Write down all the things you have to do, put them in order of really like to don't like, and the shit you don't like, find someone and you just say, it's not you're a warm body, come and work here. You go out to the market and you say, I don't like doing this. I'm looking for somebody who really loves doing this and wants to do this forever. Not someone who wants to be near Dylan Mullan because he's amazing and he's very handsome and it's a cool business, right? But that's the risk, right? We all just go grab the next warm body. You'll do. They're not the A player in doing payroll or accounts receivable or all the boring crap or taking out the garbage or packing the orders or going to the post office, whatever that might be. But that's what we have to do. And so that's how we scale a business.
Well, that's something I wish I heard before because I did exactly what you said. Like, okay, you're interviewing for someone and they want to come work for you because you're Happy Skin Co. and all this. And like you're hiring them for like, let's just say customer service. But with like, they want to be out of customer service as quick as they can. And like, okay, how do I take the next step? How do I get into marketing? And just like, oh, fuck, you've only been here 6 months.
Do you know 6 days.
Yeah, yeah. So it's difficult. Yep. And this is something I've spoken to you before, but you have a winning process to consistently hire A players. What's kind of break that process down a little bit? You mentioned part of it, hiring people that are really passionate about those specific things, but give us a little bit more detail on how you do that consistently.
Okay, so I'm going to go through 10 steps. Mm-hmm. You can get this from BestPractice.Biz /guides, GUIDES. So anyone that's watching, go to that link and we'll drop the link somewhere in some description in the show notes. So there's 10 steps to my winning formula for recruitment, and you can get this shit for free off my website or off the BestPractice.Biz website. So the first thing is have an executive conversation, which is what don't you like doing? If you're a startup, you're solopreneur, and you're thinking, who should I hire first? Don't just respond to all of the VA DMs that are coming into your LinkedIn or your Instagram. Think about what you don't like doing. And really, businesses are very simple. They're marketing, sales, finance, whatever their value-adding process is, I'll just call that production, and then people and culture. It's that simple. Don't make it any more complicated than that. I have looked at over 25,000 businesses. They are all exactly the fucking same, and don't think that your business is any different. So you start there and you say, of those things, what is the thing that I drift away from all of the time and I kind of leave to the very last minute and it becomes an emergency lead gen or sales or closing deals or finance or payroll. Usually it's something financial because people who are entrepreneurial often don't like numbers.
Scares them, huh?
Yeah. So the winning formula is, have a think about that, have that conversation, and then you say, okay, I'm going to go to market on that particular thing. Start thinking about a position description. If you don't know what that is, Google position description for that job or that thing. 1,000 examples will come up, and if you can't find them, click the images tab, and you'll see pictures of them. And if you're like someone who likes picture books, Google is picture books. So then you get a job description. Now the next really critical thing is think about the number that's most important. So there needs to be a critical number, a number that you want managed. Now it might be the number of leads or the dollar value of revenue, or it might be a really small job. And to quote you on your ROAS, your favorite term, ROAS, like return on advertising spend. Yeah. So it's got to have a number. It could be payroll, it could be finance, it could be accounts receivable, it could be cash collected, it could be orders packed. That role or that job is going to maybe have a few numbers, but it's what gets watched, gets managed. What's the thing you need managed that's the emergency? I don't have enough leads. I don't have enough sales. I haven't packed enough orders. I haven't sent enough stuff. There needs to be a number. So with a kind of a job description and with kind of a number, you take those things out to the marketplace. Now, the marketplace could be your friends and family. The marketplace could be your Instagram. The marketplace could be Seek or LinkedIn or whatever platform if you want to advertise, or it could be you're looking for a freelancer. Because then you can say, I need somebody who really loves doing this, doesn't want to do anything else. You're not looking for someone to come in and want to get into marketing or whatever. And then you talk to that person. You say, are you passionate about this number? And you're assessing for a thing called get it, want it capacity. Do they get it? Do they seem to get it? Do they want it? And do they have capacity to do it? Now, capacity is skills and competency. You can, like I talk about this a lot, you can hire for the wheel, train for the skill. But capacity is also, they're a mum with a new baby, they can only do 2 days a week. They live 5 hours away. They haven't got the capacity to physically come if you need them to pack orders. Like, it's just not going to work. So capacity doesn't work. And then you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to onboard you and we're going to go through this process basically to assess that. And maybe at a month I'm going to check in, and maybe at 2 months I'm going to check in. Now, am I allowed to swear on the podcast? Yeah. They've got to be a fuck yeah or they're a no. It's fuck yeah or it's no. Yeah. It's not maybe you'll do you're a breathing body with a pulse. You'll come on, sit here in this seat. They got to get it, want it, and they got to have capacity. And then as you become a team of 2 and 3 and 4, you'll start to see a culture evolving. There's got to be some cultural alignment. And that's where I would kind of add in the panel part, which is, hey, we're going to add another member to our team. Occasionally we're going to throw really shit passes, and you got to be able to catch a really shit pass, and you got to be able to catch a good pass with a bad catch, because you start working together as a team. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all got baggage. We got shit going on. And so that person's got to kind of fit into that, quirky culture, if that makes sense. Now, to talk about culture, we kind of get a bit off track here in Australia with culture because it gets all a bit corporate and philosophy driven. Let's go back to humanity 500 years ago. There were cultures that killed each other, and they were very specific cultures based on geographies, regions, and tribes. And we have to go back to that, because I've had the pleasant experience of hiring cultures that in other parts of the world are on opposite sides of a bank and they kill each other. And so when you talk about cultural alignment, don't make the mistake that I've made of hiring people from different parts of a particular part, different sides of a particular part of a war zone, because they don't get on. And it creates toxicity in your business. So let's not get too built up around culture. There's lovely words now. Ours are progressive and empathy and friendly and, and flexible and fast and all those kinds of things, and trustworthy. Let's go back to cultural origins, because particular cultures have particular things like traditions and holiday activities. And so if you become an office that can't celebrate Christmas, you haven't got cultural alignment. And it's not going to work well together because you're going to be constantly working on eggshells. And that is acceptable. You don't want to discriminate. Like if you get an A player that comes in and gets it once it has capacity, then they will be forgiving of the cultural traditions you want to celebrate, whether it's Jewish or Christian or pick a religious culture, because that's kind of the trend, where we are here in Australia a Christian country. I'm by no means anybody that's perfect in any way, shape of the world. I'm basically an atheist, but we're in a Christian society with Christian values and Christian rules. And if someone's going to hold you back on that, then they should work Christmas Day, not take it as a public holiday. And so we need to be, and so that's where cultural, the beginnings of cultural evolution in a business start with everyone good with all the public holidays. Yep. Everyone good with Easter, everyone good with Christmas, because that's where we are. We can, by all means, have celebrations of other cultures and religions, and I have every religion in my business now. Yeah. But we acknowledge that this is the country we live in, and we don't discriminate to people, but they have to be accepting of that, because we can't afford. It's hard enough to do business and make sales without having to walk on eggshells around people. Yeah. So you have A players, B players, and C players. If you're walking on eggshells in a business, you're walking on eggshells around a C player. You hire, promote, reward, publicly celebrate A players. You coach B players, and you fire C players.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One of the last hires we did at Happy Skin Co, we were down to 2 candidates, and one was probably probably seemed a little bit more responsible and experienced with the work we're going to do. But we just thought, we looked at a couple of things and thought, are we going to be able to continue to be able to be ourselves and talk about what we talk about freely? And we decided probably not. And are we willing to change for an entry-level role, let alone any role? And we thought, no, we weren't. And we went the one that would fit in with the culture and the way we work and our energy. And we made the right decision. I'm so thankful for it every day. Even if there were other things that the other person would have done better, overall, that unity and that, like you said, one of the most important things if you want to get the best out of your team is, do they enjoy showing up to work every day?
That's it.
So, yeah. Big learnings from that. Have you had some negative experiences you kind of touched on that made you realize that you got to approach it like that?
Heaps. Look, I think that kind of rounds out kind of those 10 points, and a lot of that's built around, hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. Yeah. From our famous friend Gary Vaynerchuk, and I live and breathe that now. Yeah. I've had plenty of experiences. I've had people from all walks of life have clashes, be too sensitive. Business is a full contact sport. It's a war zone. Business, we talk about, I don't think we put enough weight on the word competitor. Like in business, your competitors are going to undercut you on price, which takes money away from your family and food off your table. Like understand when your margin is cropped by a competitor because you're competing on price, that is taking the holiday away from your family, or a rent payment, or a treat on Christmas Day, or whatever you celebrate. Sorry, I keep saying religious holidays, but a birthday present for the family. And business competitors are the most fierce competitors out there. If you're in a running race, you're trying to run faster than the other person. You're in business, you're trying to get more leads and do more revenue and if there's only just one opportunity, one business gets it or the other. And so we have to understand that. But if we're fighting over entitlements or who's working what day or who's got what on and what desk, we're not all on the same page. We need to be a united force, and we need to understand that business is really, really hard, particularly in the climate right now. And we have to be united as a team, and we have to be, first and foremost, very passionate about the meaningful cause. Yeah. And so our meaningful cause at Best Practice, we start with why, helping businesses to be great places to work, helping businesses to be great places to buy from, and helping businesses to be great places to invest in. And we are a team that support each other to deliver those three things. If your people aren't passionate about that, if they're not passionate about the meaningful work that the Happy Skin Co does, I've spoken to you about this. I love the bigger purpose of what you can do with people's confidence with your product. And I know that it goes left and right, but right in the core, I've seen some women feel incredibly empowered through the use of your products. Like, it's incredible. And so if those people are not there for that worthy cause, for that lady who is, getting to the middle point of her life and her body's kind of not going in the direction it wants to go in, and some subtle at-home private hair removal means that she can feel more confident, even though you can't see that part of her skin out in public, but she just feels that little bit more confident. She's going to be more confident at work, more confident with maybe a guy she's interested in or a girl she's interested in, and her life is going to completely change, and your product does that, And so if your team members are not part of that meaningful cause, then they're not going to be on the same page.
Yeah, well, you kind of just explained my next question. I was going to ask, because one of the things that comes up with young entrepreneurs when they start hiring their first team, people come to me and be like, how do I get them to work harder? They don't really give a fuck. But it's like, obviously no one's going to work as hard as the business owner, nor
100%.
should you respect them to.
100%.
But so you think buy-in around the key mission of the business is the best thing that you have to get that respect and attitude to show up every day and give their best?
Yeah, 100%. And look, I think I hear that complaint all of the time. Like I've never ever looked at my team and wish they work harder. And so I don't, like I kind of like, you hired the wrong person, or your expectations are wrong, or you're a tight ass at the end of the day. Like, I don't know what it is, but if you're looking at someone in your business and you've got resentment towards them, then you kind of need to reset, because they are employees, and what they're looking for confidence, they're looking for direction, they're looking for a fixed amount of money per week, and they will come in and do what they need to do. And so this whole work harder thing, like, okay, if you've got a number and say okay, let's dig down into, I want this person to work harder. Put the number in front of them and say, are you passionate and inspired of that, around that number? Probably you're not putting the right number in front of them. So if it's packing orders, if it's e-com and it's packing orders, for example, I don't know, let's just use that, or getting better return on advertising spend. So it could be a sales and marketing person sitting at a desk driving Google AdWords, or remarketing or retargeting or Facebook ads or whatever. Or it could be over here, person slapping stickers on, picking, packing and slapping stickers on a bag and out the door, whatever it might be. Give them a number and ask them, do you really love this number? Are you excited to try to get this number better? Would you be really inspired if you could get it, to improve? And then get ready to reward that person financially, because if they become significant at those numbers, that's going to push money to your bottom line. Yeah. That's going to make you profitable. And if it's not making you profitable, it's just bringing you from a loss to break even, then you're an idiot and you should stop running your business anyway. You know what I mean?
Think, let's call them KPIs for lack of a better word, right?
KPIs
again across all facets of business.
You want to start with one per person, because as a business owner, you're giving a person, let's just use $1,000 because it's a round figure. Yep. I'm going to give you $1,000, $200 a day to come to this business each day. It's not my problem that the tax office takes a third of that at that level. That's your issue, not mine. I'm going to give you $1,000, and in return for that $1,000, I need 10 times of this. Yep. Do it twice a day for 5 days, it's 10. And it makes sense for me to pay $1,000, have that thing done this week 10 times. If you're saying I want my people to work harder, I need that thing done 15 times or 20 times, then you're just trying to squeeze blood out of a stone. But if 10 is an acceptable KPI, key performance indicator, then that's fine. Or whether it's ROAS, return on advertising spend, or orders or leads or social media posts. I said to one of our guys last week, Cam was in the meeting, I said to one of our guys, I need 500 posts on this Instagram account as quickly as possible. I said, I don't care if it's 10 a day, I don't care if it's 20 a day. He's like, but I don't think I can do that. I said, drop the quality. You've seen me do it, right? I can do 36,000 social media posts in 1 year. Yeah. And I said, it's a new account that we're starting. And I said, I need 500 posts. And he said, that's crazy. One of the other guys in the marketing team, it's one of our other businesses, he said, we're going to lose followers. I said, great, because if we lose followers, none of those fuckwits were ever going to buy from us. I don't want them on our account. I don't want them commenting. I don't want them liking. I don't want them anywhere near us. Yeah. We only want people that are going to buy from us. Yeah. But more importantly, on that account, I need more than 5 swipes when they're moving up the posts, because it's the profile. It's a very creative business that makes stuff. And so I said to him, so what I had to do was I had to compromise on quality. So I needed numbers, and I needed a particular number. I didn't need X amount of comments or X amount of likes or X amount of followers. I just need the posts. Yeah. And so I said, what I need you to do on Friday, I need you to do 10 posts per day for the next 15 days, and that's the extra 150 posts we need. And so he's like, great, cool. I'm like, are you good with that? Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Off he goes.
Yeah. So setting the clarity around that.
100%. So if you're frustrated with someone and you want them to work harder, it starts with you. You're the person doing it wrong. You have to take 100% of the blame for the situation, and then you have to say, what am I doing about that?
Yeah.
Have I been great at training that person? Have I been great at mentoring that person? Do I inspire that person every day? Am I the amazing looking leader that person is looking for? Like, everybody is ready to blame everybody else, but are you, particularly in relationships, right? You want to go and get that really attractive person on the other side of a relationship. Are you the person that matches that? And that's really important. Now, whether it's confidence or looks or whatever that might be, but you go out in public and you see people and you're like, yeah, they match, they're a match, not a broken match, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so business is the same. If you want people to double down and be absolutely incredible, you got to double down. You've got to be the leader that they want to work for. People bang on my door to come to work for me. I don't have everyone says, oh, how do you find great people? How do you hire people? How do you do this sort of stuff? We don't have an issue. We put an ad up and people will know because they watch the videos, they see it and they I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to make you amazing. I'm going to give you all this great stuff. We're going to work really hard together. We have lots of the time, you've seen them, we have all these voluntary interns that come and work for us because they want to just come and spend time in our organization. So you've got to be that, what's the 5-star version of the situation for you as a leader? You've got to do that. You've got to rise to that occasion.
And I know personally, there'll be heaps of times where we have people DMing me saying, hey, I'd love to come work with you. And I'll tell them no recently because I'm so busy with what I'm doing. I know I'm not in a position to actually be what you need right now. And it's just going to ruin my reputation. It's going to do my head in a little bit to be like, because I'm going to start feeling guilty for not giving them what they need. It's going to be a waste of their time, so it's not worth it. But that's something, I think it all comes down to you. It's the business owner. If there's anything going wrong in my business, even with an employee, it's always my fault. 100%. And that's some just approach that I took intuitively, naturally, which I'm really glad about. But it means that if there's something going wrong in your business, it's your responsibility to figure out how to get the best out of that. Not that person, and don't start blaming other people and moping around. And like you said, if it takes a reset and nothing else works, it takes a reset.
100%.
Next question for you. Okay, we've got this. You built amazing teams. Now, whether it's at a personal level for the entrepreneur themselves or with a team, something you've spoken about is increasing productivity. How can someone in themselves or in their team help increase productivity? I'm not saying work longer hours. How do we become more productive?
So I live on this philosophy of there's 3 legs to the stool. So every business is a stool. It's got 3 legs: people, data, process. So what we're looking is we're going to start measuring and we're going to start saying we want to get more productivity. So we want to expand capacity. So you're looking at, so if you train somebody, in theory, if you teach someone how to cook, in theory, they should be able to cook more efficiently. Now, the more efficiently might mean less waste, so they don't fuck it up and burn it, or they could do it faster. So you see the chefs on thing going, with the knife, right? So I can cut like that, it's chop, 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 chop. My wife watches me. She's like, how do you do that? It's like practice. So a couple of things. So the first thing is you can train people, and in theory, the outcome of training should be they should be able to be faster, more efficient, and less waste to a point. And there's the point of diminishing returns. And understanding the point of diminishing returns, which is we can invest in this, but we're going to get to a point where our return on investment is kind of capped, and that's kind of it, And if you think about leads in the marketplace, I've been in business that long now that I know there's kind of X number of people coming into the market on this day and leaving the market on this day, and kind of that's the market, and there's only so many people on the planet. And so, once everybody's got one iPhone, then everyone can kind of get 2 iPhones and then 3 iPhones. But you get my point is every human's kind of got 2 hands, and so they could only wear 2 gloves at any one time. That's the market, Yeah. So I think you've got to understand the point of diminishing returns. But if you look at the data aspect of it and start measuring, then you can look at people, can we improve competency? And then you can look at process. Now, one of the things in business, and this is kind of where e-com comes in, is that people say, well, how could we potentially sell more? The benefit of e-com is that you might have a bricks and mortar location, But that bricks and mortar location's only ever going to get 10,000 people walk past it per day. And it can only do X amount of sales per day. And maybe it's a busy road and it's a bricks and mortar petrol station. It's only ever going to be able to sell X amount per day. And that's going to kind of be the number. And to scale the bricks and mortar, we need to start to say, okay, we need more locations. And we need to start looking at where are the buyers that have got the money to spend, that it's, numbers of people buying coffees or numbers of people filling up cars with petrol. And think about how many times a week you get petrol for your car, or month, or never, or coffees that you buy, or times that you go out. And then you think about your community and the age of your community, start to go down into your avatar of who you're selling to. To get to capacity, the benefit obviously of e-com is that if you can build a website that doesn't cop a denial of service attack, you can have an evergreen shop. You can start to look at other markets that are open when you're closed. So you can look at other time zones. You can look at other demographics. You can look at other industries, other marketplaces. And I like to think of e-com as, say, a house that's got 4 fronts. So it's not a front door and a back door. It's got 4 front doors, and the customers see a different facade, and they're coming in that facade to the store, and maybe they're coming into a landing page that's got a different bundle or a different package. But at the end of the day, maybe you've got that one kind of, if you've got like you've got your bricks and mortar location, or maybe you're looking at 3PL distribution where you've got picking and packing and dispatch in a third-party logistics center. So you're starting to look at analyzing, okay, the first capacity builder is your people. How can we do that? And then you can start, can we wrap some of these problems in tech? And so that's what I've done. So I was, before I started my business, I was public speaking every day, running training courses. When I started my business, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And 20 years ago, I tried to go video. It wasn't possible. You couldn't host video on websites. It was too much bandwidth. I remember asking my web designer, I wanted the banner on my website to be a video and moving. He's like, he's like, it'll never be done. It can never be done. Every single fucking website right now has got moving images behind the banner or the watermark or whatever's behind it. But so what we did was I kind of looked and I stumbled on an e-com platform. So we've got an e-com part to our business. And I was like, great, I can record these videos. I found a hosting platform. We've now got 18,500 students in our training academy. So, and for me, I record the video once and those people come in, they can buy and they can keep consuming that online content. So Spotify is a good example of that for a musician. So you can upload your content. You're not printing CDs. There would have been a capacity at one point in time. We couldn't print any more CDs. We need more CD printers. Now we go to Spotify, you can have people streaming that content all over the world. And all they've got to do is make sure that the server that's got that music on it has got enough doors open to allow people to be pulling that content.
Yeah, we're so blessed these days with the technology that we have, right, to increase productivity. I think for me, most people that say, "Oh, I need to become more productive," there's no trick. Like for me, most people, I think if you just take an hour off each day and spend that on planning rather than doing the work and the action, you're going to get fucking way more things done that's actually moving the needle forward to closer to where you want to be. Now, speaking of being close to where you want to be, talk to me about goal setting. How do you recommend that people, your consulting clients, that you do goal setting to ensure that you have the highest chance of success and you're getting there as quickly as possible? Because everyone wants to get from point where they are now to their dream life as soon as they can. How can setting goals help them achieve that?
So, let me talk about personal and professional. Let me talk about personal first, and then I'll talk about business second. I go to the stationery store and I buy an A3 sketchbook. I really love pencils. And so I just get like an HB pencil or a B pencil and a blank sketchbook with some really nice paper, and I mind map. And I kind of think about things that I want to do. I've tried the Google Doc with 100 things on it. I've tried sticky notes on my phone. I've tried that. I really love an eraser and a pencil, and I can kind of just sketch and doodle and think about things and kind of write things that are, if today money was no object and I could go and do whatever I want, what I do. And anyone who's saying go to Greece, that's only good for a couple of days and then it gets boring and then you want to get into something. So I love businesses. I love doing business. Yeah, I love family time. I just spent the weekend out on my amazing boat. But it's good to come back and get back into the trenches. And I'm a worker. I enjoy doing that. But I think there's a lot to be said for just get rid of the technology. Technology is designed to service dopamine. You don't want to be serving yourself dopamine when you're trying to plan. So I think pen and paper or pencil and paper, the great thing about pencil and eraser is I don't like that goal, I'll just scrub it out. But I think that that's how I do that. and I've been doing that consistently for a very long time. I think the vision board thing is really interesting. I think magazines and scissors and glue and scrapbooking is a really great thing, and it gives you permission to kind of be creative. But I haven't seen anybody successfully do it with tech because it's kind of there and it's kind of, and this is how I'm going to do it. And they're more concentrating on the features of the app than the actual journey that you're picturing yourself. Find somewhere nice to sit, somewhere quiet ideally. I do it really early in the morning with a cup of coffee. I love really nice, freshly ground beans and black coffee. And I've got my house is amazing, so I've got a beautiful view and I can sit and do that. But I always get myself where there's a nice view where I can kind of look out. And if that is go to the neighborhood where you'd like to be and sit on the side of the street or in your car or in a park in that neighborhood where you'd like to live, do your goal setting there. And just keep going back to that neighborhood. And you will eventually meet people in that neighborhood, and you might get the inside scoop on a cheap place to buy in that neighborhood or rent in that neighborhood. That's how you'll get to that neighborhood. If you want to don't just dream about being there, go there and visit. Like, don't go somewhere else with your friends on the weekend. Just go and walk around the neighborhood on the weekend because you're there. Like, you don't need to kind of be in the house to be there. Put yourself there now and start surrounding yourself with those people. So I think there's two parts to that goal setting. There's the kind of the goal setting and the dreaming, and there's actually there's nothing stopping me from catching the bus down there right now and going for a walk around, just walking the sidewalk, saying hello to everybody, being part of the neighborhood. And you don't need the watch or the shirt or the car or any of that kind of crap to be wherever you want to be. Just go and enjoy it, and enjoy what they're enjoying. They happen to sleep there, but once it's dark, you can't see anything anyway. So be there during the day. Okay, let's talk about business. Business is really simple. It's 4 questions. In thinking about the next 3 months, what does success look like? In thinking about the last 3 months, what went wrong? In thinking about the next 3 months, what could go wrong? And the 4th question is the clanger, what are we doing about that? Right? And so quarterly is really important. So I don't know why I've ended up talking about religious holidays, but Christmas isn't very far around the corner. That's only 3 months away. So for your business or my business or what you guys are doing, thinking about what would I like to have done by the end of 2022? What would I like to have done by the end of, whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere Q1 or here in Australia, end of Q3 for 2023? And then what kept me busy? And kind of back to productivity and goal setting, where these things link together. Often to be able to achieve your goals, you got to learn how to say no to stuff. You got to make space to achieve your goals. And if you're just randomly wearing busy as a badge of honor, then you're not getting anywhere. I don't check my emails till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't. And it's very frustrating for everybody that works with me. If you need me, text me or call me. Don't send me an email. I'll get to the email. But email comes it's a tech that was evolved off the back of an in-tray on someone's desk where people sent memos. I started my career in an office where we didn't have email. We got a sheet of paper. We wrote memo at the top, which was a template, to this person, and the message. And we walked past their desk because they weren't in the office and we put it in their in tray. Those memos turned into emails. They're not designed, it's not designed to be an instantaneous form of communication, right? Very hard to convey tone, very hard to convey the message. And I know that, anybody after millennial is much better at, text-based messaging and kind of gets the emotional resilience part of it. I'm not built that way. So don't email me. I live and breathe on, my dad taught me to get on the blower, make the phone call, worst case text message. So from a productivity perspective, I'm very productive because I'm not reacting to someone else until the afternoon. I do my best work in the morning when I'm fresh. I've had a good night's sleep, cup of coffee, and the adrenaline kicks in. And off we go doing the things that are really important. It's the big, hairy, chunky, ugly shit I don't want to do while I'm fresh and motivated. Not when I'm tired and thinking about what am I going to cook for dinner and I've got to get my son from here and do that, doing that big, ugly stuff. It's in the morning. But the business stuff's really interesting. You can just change the time frame. In thinking about the next 12 months, what does success look like? In thinking about the next 12 months, what could go wrong? Thinking about the last 12 months, what went wrong, kept us busy. What are we doing about that? If you want some more help, what are we doing about that? Who's doing it? What are they doing? When are they doing it? How are they doing it? Where are they doing it? Who, what, when, where, how, why. If you write those things down, that's a plan.
Yeah.
That's your business plan.
Yeah, and people can so easily these days overcomplicate everything.
Oh, it gets so complicated.
Yeah.
And you've got to live in quarterlies. Like I think people kind of, we're going to do this and we're going to be amazing. We're going to change the world. Great. Distractions will come up. You are not perfect. And it's going to hold you back. And why will you succeed when others failed? Why are you better? I can go on all day for this kind of stuff, but why are you better than the other guy? Just on price, do not go in to be cheaper and better. That's Rolls-Royce didn't do that. Rolls-Royce and Bentley said we're going to be better and most expensive. If you want to be better, be most expensive. The easiest way to differentiate, and I'm going to be really quick with some of these points, the easiest way to differentiate you to your competitor if you're better quality is how? Fucking price. You don't need to say I'm better because of this, and this. You just say we're more expensive. We're better. Why are you more expensive? We're better. Yeah. So the other guy's going to go, we're better and we're cheaper. I'll say, okay, what did you leave out of it? So I think, there's kind of lots to that, but the productivity thing, both in business and in personal, kind of relates to goals. I think my final point on goals is something that I've learned I knew to do this, but I learned the words from Grant Cardone, if you follow some of his content, which is 10X it. And someone came up to me the other day. It's like, I just want to get to a point where I've got $1 million in the bank. It's like, I've got $1 million. I've actually got more than $1 million in the bank. It's not a fucking enough.
Yeah. No way.
So it's something that, the 10X rule, which is, I kind of, I've thought about that a lot, but you've literally got a 10X. And so the next phase that I'm going into is the 10X phase. So I kind of achieved a couple of goals I set for myself. I've achieved them. I did kind of half 10X them. I kind of 5X them. But my next one is like, it would be unethical of me not to go again at a multiple of 10 or even a multiple of 20 because it causes massive action. Yeah. And that's my plan.
That's interesting. I feel like, and obviously you've gone through a tremendous little period and transaction with your business. That's very exciting. I want to ask, like, what's next? What's the big plan? Where's the next, 12 months looking like for you?
Look, I've got a couple of, if you want to kind of think about goal setting, I use a thing called the wheel of life. Yeah. So there's some spiritual stuff, there's some skills stuff, there's relationship stuff, there's fun and friends stuff, there's professional development, there's different aspects. And you can Google image search wheel of life. I got a couple of things. I've got an 11-year-old son. He starts high school next year. And I didn't see my dad. And, he was building a business and then it kind of failed. So I'm trying to be available for family time without being kind of too in amongst it, if that makes sense. So what I'm focusing on doing is creating opportunities for family experience. We have an incredible boat.
Yeah.
Like
you did it up, right?
It's still going.
Yeah.
But like yesterday, we had 10 kids doing bombs off the roof of it. It's an old school super yacht.
Yeah.
And we had 10 kids on the back. There's little boats that they can play with and like a massive swim pad out the back, lily pad. And so my goal is to, with the distractions and influences that I foresee in our society over the next 5 to 10 years, if I create the situation like, the farm that's on the river where we can water ski, his mates are going to want to be with us because we're doing cool stuff, not out running wild in the city at night, doing every chemical that's available to mankind. Yeah. So if I can create a healthy, active lifestyle, a lifestyle for my family where my 11-year-old's educated about the next, like he knows, I've lectured him, I've inspired him. He is responsible. I've built a certain amount of wealth for our family. His job now is to grow that. And he's 11. So on our dining room table are books on investing in real estate and that kind of stuff. He's seeing that. He's being influenced by that. So if you want to influence kids, don't force it down their throat. Just be sitting on the couch reading a real estate book or reading an investing book or reading a business book, not on your device. Your kids will be the mirrors of you. And as a parent, I want that. And my dad kind of, not on purpose, but he did that. He was running a business and meeting clients, and a lot of our family holidays were around site visits, and he's an incredible architect, So you're going through building sites and that kind of stuff. So the kind of what's next is starting to do some stuff that I kind of fell into this business. Now I'm choosing. I've got some incredible formulas that I'm following that I've learned that I want to redeploy. in terms of what businesses I invest in, what we do next in terms of meaningful work, what legacy we leave, but more importantly, family is first. So it's focusing on family, focusing on relationships, focusing on friends, because I've had my head down and I'm kind of like, right. So there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to go and drive an excavator for a month and work on a building site. Because I've always wanted to do that. I don't need to earn any money. And so I've got some friends and I've told a friend of mine, he's like, I'm going to charge you for that. So that's one friend. I've got some friends who are working on old boats. I'm going to go and help them for a little while. I've got heaps of investing going on. We've got a fund that we're starting and we've kind of already had it started. We're just doing more. And obviously the family side of things. I got some road trips planned. I love old stuff, old cars, old boats. We got some restorations, old houses. Got some restorations happening. So there's a fair bit going on. But the super exciting thing is we've got a book coming out 1 July. Nice. So a lot of this has been put into a book. Yeah. We've held the book back because of this transaction we've just done. So it's ready to go. So that's coming out. That'll be coming out. Probably around about the 1st of July, 2023. We've got another book that's just starting after Christmas, sales and marketing book. So the book that's coming out is How to Build a Business Others Want to Buy. That's kind of the working title. We're yet to kind of finish it off. We're with the publishers next month, but the manuscript's done. The next book, Sales and Marketing. My grandfather wrote a marketing book and published it in 1933. Wow. So we're kind of building off that. That'll be coming out next year. So look for me on your bookshelves. If you're watching this, later on after the recording and you're seeing it down the track, look in your bookstores kind of mid next year. We've got 2 books coming out next year.
Yeah. And how was that process of exiting a business that people wanted to buy? What did that look like for you in a couple of minutes? How was it?
Look, what I can say to you is that you won't be ready to drink champagne to celebrate. You'll be like gasping for air, dehydrated, cramping up, bleeding out on the table. And it is literally like a Dave Goggins 1,000-kilometer marathon. And I think that success, unfortunately, is kind of being put into images on Instagram. That's not the truth. The truth is that on the day that, the day before our transaction, I had literally $7,000 left in the bank because I was funding the transaction on our side, and I couldn't take any cash flow out of my business because we were kind of in a freeze for 4 months, and so I didn't pull any dividends, I didn't pull any wages or salaries, and kind of like freezing the account. So it was really easy to do the analysis, and so we kind of didn't take any money, and I wasn't ready for that because it kind of came out of the blue. And so, I've got screenshots, which maybe we'll show, in a couple of years' time, of $7,000 and then more than 8 figures, So, that kind of thing. And we're not all the way through the thing yet. But that for me was, my lawyer rang me, he says, oh, you can go home and have a glass of champagne now. I was like, dude, I'm going home to have a cup of tea and a sleep. Yeah. Because we were 16 weeks of due diligence, 400 questions. If you're ready to feel violated, it's going to be, and I've spoken to a few of my mates that have done similar transactions and they're like, it's the most violated you're ever going to feel in your life. Yeah. And so if you've got skeletons in your business, they're going to be found. Yeah. And if they're not found today, they're going to be found down the track right at the time. I've signed 30 pages of, there's 15 warranties per page in this part of the contract, and there's 30 pages of 15 warranties per page. Wow. That's a lot of warranties in terms of like what we're signing over. Yeah. Because I sold the shares, and that the company that, it kind of to kind of come back, I've taken my company as far as I think I can take it, and I'm super keen to see it go to the next level. Yeah. And so these guys have come in, they've said, hey, we want to take your business to the next level. We've got an incredible skill set. They do. It's a global company. It's an incredible parent company that's come on board. They're doing some incredible stuff, and I'm super excited for them because there's going to be significant career opportunities for our team already playing out. There's great skill sets. There's great talent. It's a much bigger team. It's super exciting, which is why I fundamentally agreed. It wasn't about the money. It was about this business growing and going to the next thing. It's a thing that I started from nothing, from an $8,000 tax return. That was our startup capital. And off we went and bootstrapped the whole way. That now our team gets to take it to the next level. And so they're joining with some incredible people with some incredible opportunities, robust contracts and job descriptions and all the kind of stuff that I've kind of pulled together. They're now joining this bigger corporate, which has got HR departments and all that kind of stuff. So even though we became a big organization, these guys are now at the parent level, thousands of employees. Yeah. And that is super exciting. People are already exploring international opportunities, people coming to Australia to join our team, people going overseas to join other teams. It's absolutely fantastic. Not only that, our customers get to access all these incredible other services. So there's a whole bunch of complementary services where it's not just about going to a one-stop shop like a supermarket, because you can't always get the best of everything. But certainly these guys have said, we're not going to be everything, but we're going to be in these 10 areas. We're going to be the best of the best. And so it's an aggregated group that complements. So it's super exciting, and I'm super, super proud to be working with these guys. I'm working with them for another 9 months. And I'll continue to support them long term. I'm not going back into that industry, specifically the certification business. So there's a lot, but about due diligence, I think the best thing you could do if you're a startup and you're thinking that there's a sale transaction or a private equity transaction down the track, get ready for your due diligence today. And you can Google checklists and you can kind of find that kind of stuff and start informing yourself. You must have a healthy balance sheet. You must have a healthy P&L. That's the starting point. And I think if you're a business that is burning cash and you're planning to just keep raising, you're going down the wrong track. Because when you're raising, you're giving away ownership. I owned on the day I sold my company 100%. No capital, no outside parties. That is the best transaction you can ever do, is own and then sell 100%. So I think that entrepreneurship and capital raising have been glamorized. And the reality is what you really want to be doing is funding your business with customers. Yeah. You go and see a customer like what you did, right? Day one. Oh my God, cha-ching, it went off and then off you go. And so, yes, there are some problems in the world that can be solved with money and they become businesses that do meaningful work. Don't get me wrong. But for 90% of the people that are listening and watching, just bootstrap, because you will own 100% of it. You'll be 100% in control. You can kind of make decisions and you can keep moving and you can be dynamic. As soon as you get other parties involved, they've got other agendas. They want to 5x their money in 5 years. And you might get to a point where you go, actually, you know what? I'm going to sell. Or actually, this is so good, I'm going to keep.
So with that in mind, what you just said, if you were starting again, you're 25 years old, but you have the knowledge and experience you have now, you didn't have a whole lot of, let's just say you have 10, 15 grand cash in the bank, and you wanted to build something bigger, a vehicle that could, allow you to launch all these things off the back of that. What sort of business would you start now?
Look, and my answer to this question is contextualized with the macroeconomic climate right now at the end of 2022. We're going into a period of uncertainty, and it's not uncertain if you look at macroeconomic cycles over the last 40 years. I think for anyone who's kind of 20, you're like, what the fuck is happening in the world right now? I'm 47, and I've seen a number of cycles, plus early on, my family were looking at it. I would be looking at a food subscription business, and I'd be looking at low down, not high end. I'd be looking at low down, kind of stuff that people are looking at or buying every day. So people are still time poor, but people are going to be eating out less. So I would be looking at aggregated boxed food, particularly in CBD areas like this. And I'd be taking the Uber Eats convenience, but taking that to food convenience. And I would be looking at less processed. So I'd be looking at getting a group of friends together, going to the markets, getting a bunch of boxes, like buying bulk oranges, apples, bananas, lettuce, whatever, in a box delivered to your doorstep for $19. And or $29. And so that the person who might be inclined to be, so the Uber Eats person is going to come back to a little bit more cooking at home because their income's been cut a little, but they're still time poor. And so you want to be managing that. And I think that's where I'd be looking. Why do I say that? Because a subscription business is a recurring revenue business. And if you can get someone on a subscription, and if you can get people at kind of a 12-month subscription that you'll do that, then that business has actually got a significant value that if you can keep building that business, you've got an investor down the track is going to come in. If you can get money in advance, like say weekly subscription that's paid 3 months in advance, there's your working capital from your customers on day one.
Yep.
And so your customers are invested in your business, and then you can make it successful and build from there.
So you've alluded to it a couple times, but at a higher level, where do you see business and the economy as a whole going in the next 3 to 5 years?
If you look at the S&P 500, if you look at the ASX 200, if you look at the Dow Jones, if you look at any of those charts, they are topping. And when I say topping, they look like a big, tall ice mountain that's been built like Everest, and they're falling off the other side. And the reality is I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money over the last 15 years, and they don't know what to buy next because nothing's cheap enough. And when I say buy next, it's the next business, the next investment. And a lot of them are sitting on cash. They're not sitting on cash because people think like Warren Buffett is sitting on cash because like the market's topping. He's like, no, he just doesn't, there's nothing cheap enough that he wants to buy that is a good investment right now.
Yeah.
And so when I say that, what you could Google if you want to learn about this stuff is look at the Wall Street cheat sheet. It's an image. So you do Google images search, Wall Street cheat sheet, and it shows bell curves or market cycles. It shows ups and it shows downs. Something goes significantly up, it's got to come significantly down. I won't name names, but one of my friends, he invested in a particular stock 10 years ago, and halfway along the journey took out his investment. He continued to make so much money that he bought a $2 million boat with just a percentage of that money. And he's like, this is my share price. This is my share boat. And so those people are sitting back waiting for it to drop. And so I think from a business perspective, when we have climates like this, we've got a significant labor shortage. We've got significant supply chain disruption. There's a fuse in there somewhere that has to break. We've got interest rates going up. We've got inflation. And so I can remember a time when my dad was driving an incredible car, house prices were raging, people were earning money, everyone's eating out, all that kind of stuff. And then we went into a winter. And so we've just had house prices raging, people driving cool cars. We've had this opulence era. All it is to me is like, all right, we're back to that point again. When I was in that influential point in my life, it was really expensive for people to go overseas traveling. And unless you were doing really well, you didn't go overseas. And I'm like, the last 10 years, 15 years, I'm like, how the fuck can these people afford to go overseas? Like, I'm from that era. And so now we're looking at it as like, fucking everyone can travel anywhere in the world. And like, it seems to be that no one needs any money anymore. So I believe we're going into that era. So when you do that, the best thing you can be doing if you're thinking about business ideas is look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and have subscription, recurring, boring businesses at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, there will be a certain amount of people that pull back on cleaners, for example, but people will still need their premises to be cleaned. The swimming pools that are already built still need to be cleaned. Lawns need to be mowed. Gardens need to be trimmed. They are still businesses that kind of sit at that level of looking after dwellings, contractors doing maintenance on houses. The really opulent areas of wherever you live, those houses will still need to be maintained. So there's nothing wrong with being a tradie doing maintenance work. Don't just look for project-based stuff. Look for stuff that's reoccurring, and then train and empower people to join you on that journey of doing that service, whatever it might be, whether it's fixing gutters or roofs or painting walls or doing doors or bathrooms or kitchens or making food, or helping people eat or inspiring people to cook or doing that kind of stuff. All that stuff that's at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the human race needs it on an ongoing basis. And so if you can live with doing it on a recurring basis and not getting bored, then you're going to make a lot of money over a long period of time. Farmers that just plant and grow wheat every year, or farmers that just have lambs and their farm just makes lambs every year, or makes, calves from cows every year. Those kinds of things. Like, I was chatting to a guy, he gave me some mentoring a couple of weeks ago. He's probably worth around about 500 million. And he heard what had happened, and he's one of my dad's friends, and he called me. And he said, "Oh, what are you up to next? I feel I should give you some advice." He's like, "Go and buy farms and get cows."
Really?
Because people still need food. And so for a lot of people that can be really boring, but it's the boring businesses. And I just sold one of the what could be considered as one of the most boring businesses on the planet, but I made it exciting.
Yeah.
They are the kinds of businesses that they're just serving humanity. Yes, we want to be the next Canva or the next Atlassian or the next Facebook, but there's a lot of businesses out there that are roasting nuts or picking flowers. You know, I bought for my wife, I'll give a final example. I bought for my wife a really cool gift. It's called Bloombox. Like, this is a plug for them. They fucked it up the first couple of times, but it's a bloody great service now. You get this beautiful box delivered every second Thursday morning for $1,500 a year. I don't have to think about buying fucking flowers anymore.
Yeah.
Every Thursday, we have a fresh bunch of flowers gets delivered. They last about a week and a half.
Yeah.
I bought the vase and the scissors. She gets this, I get this text message at midnight on every second Thursday. They've been delivered out to the front door. We got fresh flowers, $1,500. I'd go and buy flowers, $250, $300 for a bunch of flowers. I'm like, this is cheap and they're fresh. And this dude's making me look like a superstar.
Yeah.
So that's a great example of, now that business is worth a lot of money because investors love subscriptions. They love recurring revenue. So you're an investor. You got $1 million. You want to put it somewhere. Am I going to get my $1 million back? Is it going to throw off a dividend? People want recurring revenue. They want passive income. Well, if you're a person who wants passive income, what do you think investors want? They want passive income. So build a business that creates income that you sell to someone and they get their passive income.
Now, someone that's going to have substantial money in the bank for this whatever the dip looks like, what sort of opportunities are you keeping your eyes open for in terms of where to throw some of this cash when the time is right, when things aren't at the top?
Yeah, look, we're looking at private banks and funding private banks. So private banks have obviously private people that fund. Yeah. So we're looking at that. We're definitely looking at real estate. I know real estate. I'm really good at it. We're looking at when I say real estate, we're looking at a couple of things. Airbnb is still a thing, so we're looking at real estate that's got an Airbnb aspect to it. So people kind of pulling back on massive international spend to domestic spend. That's a trend I think that's going to play out for a long time. We're looking at obviously construction, and I think that although construction's got some issues right now in materials and supply. There's kind of a few issues associated with that. Housing approvals and submissions are way down at the moment. But the reason why they're way down is because the net immigration into Australia in the last 24 months, because of COVID's been negative. Yeah. So it's the first time in Australia's history that we've had negative population growth. As soon as they crank that up, because we need labour, people are going to realise a great place to live, they're going to flood in. It's just the airlines have just got to get their shit sorted out, and then we'll have immigrants again. Then we're going to need more houses. We're going to need more that kind of stuff. So those are the things I'm looking at. There's some interesting stuff happening on some of the stock exchanges, both Wall Street, obviously Australia. So from an investment perspective, but I'm looking at businesses. Yeah. I'm good at business, and I'm looking at startups, and I'm looking at both economic value into startups, but also sweat equity. Yeah. So I'm interested in hearing more from people. The book I'm writing is all about building business, and basically, looking at equity share in terms of helping people build their businesses, and I'll be looking to invest in businesses at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, smart. Have you heard of Alex Hormozi?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, acquisition.com. So he's got some great content. I think that, if you want some sales advice, he's got great stuff. Right? Yeah. I'd really like to see Alex kind of just clean up the image a little bit, because he's got some incredible content, and he's going to switch people off because he's sitting there in Crocs and jeans and a t-shirt, To
be honest, man, that's what I love about him. Fuck showing, just be
he just
you,
does
man.
not care. That's
why I love him so much. To be honest, I agree with what you said, because the first time I'd seen him pop up, I'm like, oh, whatever, what's this? But then you watch a few of his videos and I'm learning, I'm getting so much value out of this. We've already gone for an hour and a half. I want to ask you one last question. We can keep going for another hour easily. But as someone who I know is a massive reader, probably read hundreds, honestly, this is not an exaggeration, if not thousands of books, right? For someone that's in the process about to start or starting their first business, if you were to recommend 3 books to them, what 3 books would you recommend?
I think the first book every entrepreneur or business owner or business leader, anyone, let's say business leader, has to read is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. The gold nugget in that book is on the cover. Start with why. Why, So, because if one of your staff members is pushing back, it's like, why the fuck do I have to do this? Why was in there, right? It's like, well, if you start with why, then they'll understand. They won't push back and say, why the fuck, So I think start with why. I think you've got to learn to sell. So I think you're either selling ideas, you're selling concepts, you're selling someone, can you please do this for me? So I think you got to read The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort. And I think that what Jordan stumbled upon was a mechanism to influence people that's got a bit of a matrix to it. So, every sale or every influence, whether you're trying to get that amazing partner or special person in your life, or whether you're trying to close a deal, whether you're trying to raise capital, as much as I disagree with that, but whether you're trying to raise capital, get customers, understand that every sale has an open and a close and a number of stages. And it starts with massive information gathering. Once you understand the full situation of the problem, ethically, you know whether you've got the solution to the problem instead of being the greasy salesperson. Yeah. And then you present your solution as it matches, the evidence from your due diligence. And then you work on the close, and then you build trust in yourself, the brand, and obviously the product or service. Yeah. So I think that Jordan Belfort's book on The Way of the Wolf, and forget the debauchery of the movie, focus on the selling system, and whether that's you as a leader or whether that's you as a salesperson in the first instance, and then from a sales and marketing perspective, it'll help you build your avatar. Book number 3, I'm going to give you a really I'll give you a really, really technically advanced book. If you are serious about building and growing businesses, you need to look to the firms that are the most serious about this. And McKinsey's is one of those firms, and they've got a good book called Beyond the Hockey Stick. And what that does in that book, right in the middle, the gold nugget breaks out the kinds of businesses that the really big businesses focus on and at what points in time in economies. So things like, if one wants to be recognized as being successful in business, then one must first join a successful business, not try and grow a pig, if that makes sense. So what McKinsey's are saying is, like, if you want to be really successful, look for the tailwind, and that's going to help you go faster. Look for the geographic opportunity, look for the market opportunity. And it kind of breaks that down into 10 parts right in the middle of the book. So McKinsey's Beyond a Hockey Stick. I've got to give you a bonus book.
Go.
Human psychology is everything from a leadership perspective, from everything that's happening inside business perspective. So you have to read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. That is the book that changed my life as I started to understand that we have 2 thinking systems. We have this fast thinking system and the slow thinking system. The fast thinking system is just, when we're drunk and we're kind of just talking to people, it's conversational. You're on autopilot in the morning, you drove somewhere, you don't even remember how you got there. And then there's the slow thinking system, which is where you do the deep work. And he worked out how you can actually trigger the slow thinking system, put the body under stress, pull back on its sugar content. The brain itself actually will consume the most amount of blood sugar, actually doing the work of thinking. So if you're on, sorry, I got it the wrong way around. If you're low blood sugar, you're not going to be able to think straight. Yeah. If you are doing exercise. So you're running up a hill, like we're both sprinting up a massive hill together, personal training, running, getting harder and harder and harder. And I turn to you and say, what's 127 times 352? You can literally picture yourself stopping. I've got to fucking think about that. I can't run and think, right? So we can have a conversation as we're jogging along, but we need to stop and think. That's because your brain needs sugar to process. And so understanding what happens when the body's under stress, understanding what people's cognitive biases are. You might not like a supplier's proposal because you don't like the font. Fuck that. It's probably the best thing that can happen to your business, but you just don't like it because there's a spelling mistake. So I think Thinking Fast and Slow is the bonus book. It's a hard read. It's heavy duty text. Yeah. It's a university thesis. He won the Nobel Prize in Science and Economics for that particular book. It's heavy duty. I couldn't read it, and I literally had to do a 2,600 kilometer drive somewhere, and I listened to the audiobook, and then I came back and read the book. So they're my 4 books that you must buy and put in your business books library. And I think if you want to be successful in business, you've got to have a shelf, and you've got to have books, and you have to write in the books, and you have to, highlighters. And I don't necessarily agree with Audible. I think Alex Hormozy recommends Audible and book. Like, listen, earbuds, listening to it and reading it at the same time. And that is like using 2 senses to pump it in. And I agree with that. But I think that Audible, you haven't read a book if you've listened to Audible. You've listened to a book.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, all of my books are texts. And as you pointed out, I've got a library of over 500 business books. Yeah. And I've read thousands. I keep the best of the best. They've all got dog-eared pages. They've got coffee stains. They've got notes, highlighter, pencils, pens. And it's driving my wife crazy.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner, so I need to read a book. I was listening, books that are about stories, like the Richard Branson ones about his life. I listened to that on Audible, but I tried to listen to The Richest Man in Babylon on Audible. Like, there's too much I fucking want to know from these. If I actually want to know stuff, I need it in front of me to read it, stop, digest, think about it. Okay, how's it relevant? How is it practical in my life? How can I then use that? Yeah, like one of my favorite business books ever, Shoe Dog. I first listened to it on Audible. It was amazing. So then I read a book. And then
perfect.
Perfect. So
perfect. I think sorry to cut you off. My final tip on books is the biggest trap we can fall into, excuse me, is opening the front page and trying to get to the back. I cheat. I go straight to the contents page. So I've given the author my $30, or $35, or in some instances $500 for some of the books I've got. I go to the contents page and I look at the contents page and I kind of catalog that in my head. Right, this book is talking about these challenges, or this book is talking about this subject matter. I look for what would interest me the most and I go straight to that part of the book, because I'm asking the author to sell me on the concept that I'm going to invest my time in this particular book. So I'll read that chapter. If I like it, I'll read the next, fore and aft or before and after chapters. And then if those 3 chapters get me, then I'll go to the start and I'll finish the book. Now, I started that philosophy. I picked up How to Build an Empire by Elena Cardone. I read we're out of time. The phone. So I'll pick up where I left off. So I picked up How to Build an Empire by Elena Cardone and I read the middle chapter. The book is so good that I read both sides of it, and I went back and I literally didn't put the book down for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you want to catalog it, and then you want to have these books available because they become your formulas, secrets, answers to problems and challenges that are going to come up later on down the track in business that all of these authors have experienced. And so you've got this incredible opportunity to have all these mentors. You don't need to go and buy coffee for people and chase people all over different cities. They're right at your local bookstore, or they're right on Amazon. And for $30 you can get it and read it. And I think if it comes back to some of those people that might want to work with you, if anyone's watching this and you want to be around us, consume all of our online content, consume the author's online content, read their book. Then if you've still got questions, go and ask the questions.
And final question for anyone who wants to learn more about you, anything we just spoke about, where's the best place people can find you?
So 3 great places, KobiSimmat.com, Kobi Simmat on Instagram, and Kobi Simmat on LinkedIn.
We'll have all your links there, and then we're done. See, that's what happens. The alarm goes off when you go way over what you expected. So sorry about that, Cobes, to cut you off.
That's all right, mate.
But thanks again, man. There's fucking so much in that. We could have a 4-hour conversation, I'm sure. So
this was part 1.
I know. There we go. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them, and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.